Welcome to the WTR On the Horizon podcast. I'm your host, Tim Gerdeman, Vice Chair and Co-founder and Chief Marketing Officer of Water Tower Research. In today's podcast episode, I'm being joined by Oren Hershkovitz, CEO of Enlivex, NASDAQ, and TASE, ticker symbol ENLV. Enlivex pioneered a dual strategy that combines traditional biotech development with a high-exposure digital asset treasury, otherwise known as DAT, of course. While the company continues to develop its lead immunotherapy candidate, Allocetra, for age-related osteoarthritis, its financial engine is now driven by a specific digital asset strategy. Also joining is my WTR Equity Research colleague, John Roy. Good morning, gentlemen, and thanks for joining. And Oren, good to see you again.
Good to be here again. Good morning.
Morning. Good morning.
Oren, for those listeners that don't know the company, could you please provide a quick overview of the company and its evolved corporate strategy? And I also always like to ask our guests to share their professional backgrounds with our listeners.
Sure. So I'll start very quickly with it. So I'm the CEO of Enlivex in the past 6 years and more. I'm immunologist by training, but I've been doing drug development for almost 20 years now. In my previous company, I was very lucky to lead development of a long-acting growth hormone that eventually was licensed to Pfizer and now is approved and commercialized by Pfizer in more than 40 countries. So I have a lot of experience myself, and the executive chairman of Enlivex, who founded that company and also co-founded Enlivex. So this is our second round together. As you said, Enlivex is a public company, traded on a NASDAQ. We are a clinical stage immunotherapy company currently focused on advancing our late stage clinical development of our platform called Allocetra, which was really a novel therapy designed to treat joint-related disease, specifically osteoarthritis. And additionally, again, as you mentioned, we're the first public company that have developed a treasury strategy centered around prediction markets and specifically around the rain protocol, which we'll get into in a second, and running actually a dual strategy, a pillar that we believe is very novel and provide our shareholders with substantial value.
Great, thanks. That's a really interesting overview and certainly been fascinating to sit back and watch how the company's evolved since last time you were on the podcast quite some time
Yes.
ago. So I'll turn it over to John.
Sure. Obviously, the pillar strategy is going to be important. Maybe if you could take us down a level and describe the thinking behind why you did that and what does it entail?
Sure. So of course I'm completely aware of the fact that this is really it's not a trivial story, but let me try to explain why it makes a lot of sense. So we're currently combining two powerful capabilities, right? On the one hand, we're advancing our clinical stage immunotherapy, as we said. It's still our main focus. We want to deliver that therapy eventually to underserved longevity-related diseases, specifically osteoarthritis, where based on the data we generated during 2025, I think we can eventually become will mature into and approve a drug that will be meaningful from a therapeutic perspective and provide quality longevity for age-related population. But at the same time, we've built a treasury strategy that is anchored around or provide exposure to prediction markets and specifically anchored through the RAIN decentralized prediction market protocol. This dual strategy is really not trivial, but it does provide, first of all, for our investors, exposure to this exponentially emerging growth of prediction markets infrastructure, where we can continue, and this is very important because it might be confusing to be investors and people. We continue to advance our clinical program and actually using this strategy to move it forward, to push it forward more aggressively. So we're currently the largest corporate that hold the RAIN token, and based on our strategy behind short-term market movements, we're planning to utilize yield enhancement activities that will generate yield in such a way that will potentially outperform the token and will provide us a funding to support our clinical development. So part of this appreciation from from the treasury will be allocated to gain or to to increase our digital asset strategy, but on the other hand, it will be used to fund some of the clinical development. So I hope that that makes sense now to people that kind of ask what exactly is this company? It's both, and it provides a broad a, a potential benefit to our shareholders.
Excellent. So I guess to get a little more specific on the one side, the RAIN protocol slash token ecosystem, why pick that one? Why is that one the one that you're most interested in investing in?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. So when we decided to take that to implement that strategy, there were companies around that, as you said, it's what we call digital asset treasuries companies that decided to focus their treasury on Bitcoin on other popular coins. And when we sat down and said, well, what we want to achieve with that, that was actually, we don't want to be another Bitcoin company, right? There's enough without disrespecting any other strategies, but we were looking for something different that would provide potentially um, our shareholder value to our investors. And that's when the rain and prediction market came up as an opportunity. So as we all know, prediction markets are now growing and growing. And as of today, I think many of our audience are familiar, right, with Polymarket and Kalshi, decentralized prediction market companies. As of today, the evaluation is that there's over 3 billion annual revenues and prediction that expected to grow based on different reports to something like 10 billion in 2030. So on top of that, we're seeing kind of significant institutional capital enter into the sector, right? Providing kind of a validation to that, to the prediction market that becomes really part of our future financial infrastructure. So that's on the one hand a huge growth of this market, but on the other hand, what's RAIN and where exactly RAIN is positioned there. So RAIN is a decentralized permissionless protocol that allows anyone, anywhere, in any language to generate a market. Okay? So think about this as like Netflix and TikTok. I'll use an analogy to just to explain what RAIN is doing. So Netflix is a content creator, right? It creates the content, it controls the liquidity, and we as users subscribe and use that content based on what Netflix is generating. On the other hand, TikTok is more the long tail model where anyone can generate content, and the users actually are the ones that generating the content and eventually generating the liquidity. So it's a different platform, and they live alongside. That's exactly what Rain does compared to Kalshi and Polymarket. It provides it allows anyone, anywhere, in any language to generate content, right? So while prediction market sector grows dramatically and Polymarket and Kalshi will continue to grow, Rain allows a different features that allows anyone eventually to generate that prediction markets. So we found that this is has a lot of potential. And on top of that, as part of that transaction that we'll probably talk about later, we obtained a very unique option to acquire additional RAIN tokens in a substantial discounted price. That is another, you can consider that kind of another warrant or another option that we can benefit from and our shareholder will benefit from.
Interesting. Now, also within RAIN, the whole ecosystem, people are talking about, more AI agents active within the RAIN ecosystem. Is that something that you're looking into, or what are those agents going to do for your company?
Yeah, so there's no, it's not a direct link, I would say, between those AI agents and Enlivex, but let me try to walk you through how that eventually can evolve into benefits to Enlivex and again to our shareholders. So again, anyone, as we said, can build that market, right? Now, to build a market, you need a set of tools, what we call SDK. So developers can build that market using those tools. Now, to make this more accessible, what Rain did, and this is entirely the Rain Foundation and the protocol, it's not anything to do with Enlivex, they've build that in a way or design that in a way that if you're using an AI coding assistant, and as you know, all of us are now doing that, you can use your AI agent to read all the specifications and so on, and eventually integrating that into writing the code for you, right? So more adoption that the SDK is being used, more apps built on the Rain protocol, more users entering the ecosystem, more prediction markets created, more volume is generated, and eventually more fees are collected. Now, something that I don't think we mentioned that is embedded within the protocol is that Rain consists of a buy and burn mechanism, which means that 5% of the total fee from the total volume, trading volume, is collected. Half of it is used in order to buy back the tokens in the market and burn them, right? So more volume, you have reduced supply. So it's actually the deflationary mechanism. Now think about the fact that who benefits from that. Obviously, that's translated into appreciation in the token, and definitely the large holders of the token benefit from that mechanism, right? So that's kind of the sequence of events as I see them, that eventually lead to beneficial outcomes to Enlivex.
Excellent. So maybe one last question related to the rain and position, et cetera. I mean, you just completed a pretty big pipe. What was it? 212 million to build a position. Can you walk us through where things stand today with that? And what?
Mhm. Sorry, I've kind of an end. Where's
Oh
things
no, and I
standing?
was also going to talk about, you've also recently published some earnings reports that have some
Yeah,
details on that.
sure. Yeah, so I think what happened since we did that transformative transaction of pipe, as you said, of $212 million, is that we continued to be very disciplined and focused on that strategy. And it's already showing strong signals that, kind of validating that strategy. So as you said, we've announced our 2025 earning reports with a total net profit of 1.23 billion or 25.5 almost dollars earning per share. Okay. So this is based on the valuation of our treasury and on top of the option that I've explained. Again, it's an exclusive option to acquire currently now almost 900 million um, of RAIN tokens in a substantial discount compared to the price today, right? So if you combine those two, it translated into 1.23 billion. In terms of where things are standing as of, what are we, April today, end of April. So we're currently have more than 78 billion tokens in a valuation of aggregate evaluation of approximately $600 million. And since the transaction, we secured additional RAIN tokens, which I think reflects our discipline and our in the strategy, and that again, as I said, we think that will is already showing and will show benefits to our shareholders. Um, in terms of where we're going with this, so the basic strategy is really buy and hold. The idea is to continue to increase our treasury and to generate yield out of that, right? And again, as I said before, that the plan is that we'll use part of this yield to continue and increase our position and focusing on the RAIN token, of course, and on top of that, to fund our clinical development.
Speaking of clinical development, where are you today with the osteoarthritis effort, and what are the milestones that investors should look for in the not too distant future?
So for the ones that are less familiar or maybe heard the last podcast that we had, maybe I'll give a quick update on where we are with that. So first of all, just to say that knee osteoarthritis is really one of the most prevalent and disabling disease worldwide, right? The numbers are, I'm just coming back from the ORC conference, which is the global conference for osteoarthritis, where we presented actually one of the KOLs in this field presented our data. Um, and the numbers there, again, every year you see the numbers are growing dramatically. So we're talking just in the US, something like 32 million adults suffering from osteoarthritis, a number that is projected to grow to almost 80 million by 2040, right? And currently, there's no effective approved drug for osteoarthritis. There are drug approved, but they're mostly pain reliefs and steroids and such. Now, this is really an kind of a aging disease. By the age of 60, about 30% of the population are suffering from knee osteoarthritis, and more than half of the population with knee osteoarthritis are actually 60 years old. Hope that makes sense, right? Um, and in 2025, we completed a phase 2A study, which was a double-blind, randomized, placebo-controlled trial where we generated very, very promising clinical data. We managed to show that Allocetra can lead to substantial pain relief, improve of function, and consequently quality of life in age-related osteoarthritic patients. The data was clinically meaningful, which means that if you evaluate that from a medical perspective, it's not just statistically significant, which was also the case, but it's also meaningful from a clinical perspective. And based on that, we've now commencing our phase 2B study, where it will be again a double-blind, randomized control study. We just announced last week, I think, that the FDA have approved our IND to initiate that study in the US, and actually the Denmark authorities also now approved our study to start a trial in Denmark. This will be again compared to placebo in age-related osteoarthritis patients. So we're totally excited about this. I'm hopeful that we'll be able to generate the similar data. I believe that we'll be able to generate similar data in this really underserved age-related osteoarthritis patients, and that will lead to a phase 3 study. Um, in terms of kind of what our investors should expect, so we'll probably dose our first patient in the coming month, or I don't know, 6 weeks, something in that range. And we're expecting 3 months and 6 months top line data during Q2, Q3 2027. I think that kind of that's the major clinical milestone that we're expecting, and we're kind of working in the background to prepare ourselves to a follow-up phase 3 study.
Excellent. So maybe one question on the overlap. What is the kind of thinking on how to protect the clinical program if you have a lot of digital volatility in terms of the RAIN, token
Yeah,
price?
right. Great question. So I'll start with saying that I think that since this is a crypto coin, a token, there's kind of a you immediately kind of compare that to what happened to the Bitcoin. One thing to say is that really RAIN, since it's related to prediction market, and it still needs to go some validation milestones, definitely, but it is related to prediction markets and actually didn't behave in the last few months as most or almost all crypto coins, right? So while the market went down, Bitcoin and all that were going down, RAIN continued to grow and to sta and was pretty stable. So I think that's something that's very important to say because prediction markets is really growing so dramatically, and RAIN will be, we think, will be the number one ranked decentralized protocol in prediction market. That being said, I've been doing this for many years. Volatility is part of the game. It's not, it's not solely related to crypto or to the rain token or whatever. It's actually something that we've experiencing in the microcap biotech space for many years, and especially, I guess, from the last something like 4 or 5 years, right? And I think you need to have a seasoned management, responsible management, disciplined management that know how to handle and how to run the company in a way that um, will lead to the fact that we'll be able to deal with those volatilities. And I think we're at Enlivex in the past few years, we're able to show that we can do that. Many companies didn't survive the troubling times that we've experienced eventually, while we at Enlivex continue to push forward our clinical development. So I think that's kind of the overall my answer to your question is that, clearly that's a challenge. I think that we've proved ourselves to be able to meet that challenge, and we'll continue to do that, whether it's with the rain or with the clinical development or whatever.
Great. Well, Oren, thanks so much. And this is the end of my questions. Tim, back over to you.
Thanks, John. Oren, you probably saw I had a big smile on my face when you said we know a thing or two about volatility because of being executives in the microcap biotechnology space, because that certainly is exactly how one would describe the broader space. But thanks much. And as John and I grew up with an old saying on Wall Street, the trend is your friend. As it relates to Allocetra, I would tend to think that the global aging population is going to create a tremendous total addressable market. So hopefully that gets commercialized successfully.
Thank you very much, and I hope so. I mean, at the end of the day, we're here to create shareholder value, but also to provide through this, underserved population that really suffers with a lack of effective treatment. And it is my and the team at Enlivex commitment and responsibility to do whatever we can to eventually become this, to allow this therapy to be available to those patients. Again, something we did in different population in the past, hopefully, and I believe that we'll be able to do that in the future as well.
Great. Thanks for joining me today, gents. Have a great day.
Thank you both. Thank you very much.
Thank you for listening, and do not forget to subscribe, as well as visiting www.watertowerresearch.com to stay up to speed on the WTR on the Horizon written research reports, podcasts, fireside chats, industry-specific symposiums, and conference schedules. We will see you next time for another edition of WTR on the Horizon podcast. Finally, a special thanks to the producer and editor of the podcast, Krista Fitzpatrick.